Hello and welcome to Hope for Today. I'm so glad you chose to be with us. This is going to be a great segment because these are great friends to me and they're friends to the nations. So you're going to be excited to hear what God is doing through Mark and Paula Boone. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
So let me set you up. These are not just friends. We're relatives now.
Yeah.
Our
Right.
kids got married, their
That's right.
son, and my daughter. Here's a picture of Will and Eden Boone.
Aw.
Got married just, 5 months ago? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Crazy.
it's happening. It's happening. So,
I can't believe it's been that long.
yeah, I've known you guys for 9 years now, nearly
Right.
10 years.
Right.
I met you at a conference,
Yeah.
and then we ended up at the same retreat in Mexico.
Right.
And played cards,
Play cards all night.
had fun,
Yeah.
and just stayed together through communication,
Right.
talking through the years. And then our kids went to the same university, and boom,
Yeah.
Boom.
they're married.
Immediately.
They dated 5 years, I guess
Yeah.
it was, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could not be happier. We love
Exactly.
Will. We love what God is doing in his life.
Yeah.
Here's Will's boss. This is Lance Wallnow. He's working
Yeah.
with him now. I love Lance. Love what he's doing in the nations. We're really one big conglomeration of people who love the nations.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I want to talk about what God is doing in you guys. You both are involved in the nations, but in
right.
different spheres of the nations, but
Absolutely.
you do get to travel a lot together.
Right.
So they got to live for, was it 2 years in
Almost
Vienna?
three.
3
Almost
years,
three.
which right now I think is still the number one city in the world to live in. What was it like living in Vienna?
Yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful city. I mean, spiritually very dark, but
Uh-huh.
such a beautiful city and beautiful people, such an international city.
Yeah, what were you guys doing there? If you'd help us.
We were serving with the Vienna Christian Center, and we were there as executive pastors. We also worked with worship ministries. We were in charge of onboarding, which a lot of people call growth track.
Right.
You may be familiar with that. And we were one of the pastors on staff. But it's a unique model at Vienna Christian Center,
Yeah.
where they had multiple congregations, many different languages over the weekend. But God really allowed us to partner with a lot of great people across Europe from that one location.
It's a great church. We, at the big campus they're at now, we took a team years ago to serve as host for that event,
that's right.
and got to see all these different nationalities on the platform. How many different nationality services does that church have?
There are 8 different congregations.
8 congregations.
Yeah, in
Okay.
different languages.
Yeah.
And
It's-
then over probably close to 100 nationalities represented.
That's
in the
powerful. It's a big
international-
church.
Yeah.
So you've been promoted now.
We have.
There's a shift. So
Absolutely.
catch me up.
Yeah. Well, last fall, as we were marrying both of our children,
So, right.
Right, your daughter and your
So
son.
both of our children got married 6 weeks apart.
Right.
yeah, we
Yeah.
received a call from AGWM who asked us to
That's
step
the
into a
Assemblies
role.
of God World Missions,
Yes,
for
thank
those
you.
of you who don't know.
Thank you. They love their acronyms. And so, and we, as Europe missionaries, were asked to step into a role where the title is Europe Mobilization Director. And so as we step into that, we are going to be responsible for the next wave of missionaries that come through
Right.
Europe. And so a lot of different streams, a lot of different ways in which we recruit those candidates who feel like they have a call of God on their life, and just working with them, trying to help them identify, try to clarify, and then also make available to them the opportunities that are available all throughout Europe, so that they can use the call of God on their life to reach the lost.
So you were telling me there's 400 and something missionaries now, and you're wanting
Yes.
to grow it to
That's
what?
absolutely. Right now, there's about 490 missionary units, and that could be one person or it could be a family.
Sure.
And so we need to desperately increase that to 600,
600,
as soon as
okay.
possible in the next few years,
Okay.
desperately.
Yeah.
So be praying with Mark in that regard that he will be successful in finding these candidates,
Absolutely.
getting them approved and getting them supported and in these nations.
That's
Right.
right.
That's fantastic.
Right.
What is the spiritual climate of Europe right now?
Yeah, it is definitely secularistic, which means that most people have forgotten God and several generations removed from the knowledge of God. And so they have become their own God.
Right.
They have become they have elevated their intellect to be their God. So their life experiences, their culture, their education, all of those things that they wrap into define their moral compass, and so they don't have a need for God. But mostly, the people that we meet walking the streets in Vienna and Austria and most of Europe could go their whole life and never meet another evangelical believer.
Right.
Yeah, 3%, less than 3% of the population of Europe claim to have a relationship with Christ.
Wow, that's
and
amazing,
it's now
isn't
the
it?
dark continent. You know, when we were growing up, Africa,
It
was the dark
And
continent.
Africa's in revival
Oh,
now.
they are,
Right.
and incredible, because we were able to focus and be intentional and plant churches there. And so we've kind of put Europe on the back burner just
Right.
a little bit. And so we need to be more intentional.
So would you say Europe do they identify more as agnostic or atheist?
It's definitely secularistic. That has
Okay.
become
Yeah.
the
And
identity.
I would say atheistic.
Atheists, they don't
Yeah.
even believe in God.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no thoughts of God.
Right.
I know traveling throughout Europe, either the cathedrals and churches are tourist meccas where you just go
Absolutely.
and look, or they're coffee shops, homes. I've stayed in Airbnbs that were former churches,
Wow.
in different places in Europe. So, yeah, it's interesting. So the churches that are starting up in Europe,
Yeah.
what are they like? They're not in cathedrals. What are they like?
No, they're not. They are forming from ground zero. There's church plants. There are people that are missionaries that are going in, trying to in homes, and eventually, as they grow, then they can, if the government allows, give them access to public property or
Right.
storefronts, things like that. In Sarajevo, we just, as the Assemblies of God, planted the first church there since 1996.
Wow, that's great.
And so it's a really desperate need. We need to have if we had 100 missionaries today, John, we could place them immediately with needs and hot spots across Europe who are calling and desperately need, as we partner with the national church to plant churches.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, Paula, you're working alongside him, but you also have another sphere of ministry that you're involved in. Tell me about
Right.
that.
Well, I get to serve. I have the privilege of serving as the executive director for the Inspire project, or the Inspire Global Sisterhood. So it began just as a focus in Vienna, Austria, just for the women and girls there of Vienna, just to reach those women and girls of Vienna Christian Center. But quickly, over the next couple of years, just started growing just massively. And then we began to get calls from other countries, other missionaries, other churches, pastors from around the world saying, would you please come help us launch Inspire in our city or our country? And what makes Inspire unique is that it's so evangelistic. It's all about reaching the next woman and the next girl for Jesus. As we're just thinking about, how are we going to reach Europe? How are we going to reach the world for Jesus? It's really, church services are great, big evangelistic outreaches are great, but there's no replacement for just that one-on-one, one person reaching the next person, reaching the next
Right,
person.
right.
And so that's the focus of Inspire, helping women and girls understand that it's their responsibility, the people around them are their responsibility to reach them for Jesus, and then teaching them how to be bold in their faith,
Right.
to just make sharing their faith a normal part of their life. Doesn't have to be weird. You don't have to stand on the street corner and preach. It's just living out your faith every day in your relationships.
Right.
And so God is just blessing. Last year we were in 14 countries. This year we'll be in 15.
Wow.
And next year we've already said yes to 17. I was just on a Zoom call this morning with the coordinators in Lithuania.
Oh, good.
And so we'll be in
I
Lithuania.
want to tell this little story.
Yeah.
It was in this auditorium a week ago, Wednesday night. My wife was leading a prayer meeting about evangelism and reaching outside our borders. And our tagline here at Freedom is from neighborhoods to nations. So she said, I want you to spend some time in prayer, pass out some papers. And one of the questions was, what nation is God laying on your heart? And I prayed and put Lithuania. I've never been there, never given it a second thought. You guys are staying in our house. Yesterday morning, you mentioned Lithuania. That's a connection. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Lithuania. So I want to partner with you in
Absolutely.
Lithuania. I've already
Yeah.
started talking to some women in our church that want to go already.
Wonderful.
So
Wonderful.
we'll get a date and get that
That's
nailed
amazing.
down.
That's exciting.
We were talking to the national leaders this morning, and they're so hungry and they're so excited that that were coming. You know, one of the things we really feel like that we're doing, one of the missions of Inspire is that we feel like we really are mentoring Pentecost in the lives of these women and girls. We're giving them opportunities to create spiritual markers in their lives.
That's great. So we talked a little bit about women's ministries, and I've seen several women's conferences in the United States. I've seen a few internationally. But I agree with what you've said of what you've seen is sometimes it's a lot of fluff and just fun. And then men's can turn into a axe throwing for fun, you know, or let's go golfing and not much spirituality. Yeah. So you're kind of changing the model. So how are you shifting it away from like fluff, how many people can we get at this event, to something meaningful? What are you doing?
Well, again, it's focusing on reaching the next girl and encouraging those church women that this is not just we're not just having a party for ourselves.
Right.
This is about you inviting someone who doesn't know the Lord. And as a matter of fact, our founder, Melinda, whenever she first started Inspire, when she was just starting with her women in her church, she said to her women, she said, I want you to invite your unsaved friends and family members. And she said, as a matter of fact, if you don't bring an unsaved person with you, don't even come.
Oh, wow.
Like, don't even
bother. That's your ticket.
Yeah.
That's
don't
good.
even bother. And so it's just being intentional about not making it so churchy and but at the same time, very spirit-led.
Right. Yeah.
Very intentional. We're seeing women and girls. We just came from 2 weeks in Mexico, and over 80 women and girls were baptized in the Holy Spirit.
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
So,
Great.
Very focused on that.
Right. So that's incredible. So you guys are busy.
We are.
So how many weeks out of the year will you be traveling, do you think?
For me, I know I'll be in 9 countries this year just with Inspire, and that doesn't include what travel we may be doing with all of Europe. So I don't know that we know the answer to that.
This is
a lot?
Yeah, it's a lot. As much as our budget will allow us.
There's the answer.
Yeah.
Because we desperately need to be traveling on both sides of in Europe and the U.S.
Right. And if you want to partner with them, here's the way you can. And I encourage you. I mean, they're good people. They have a great vision, 2 great visions that coalesce, that work together to inspire the nations. So I want to submit their names to you and their information to reach out and support them. Let them know that you believe in them. And then more than that, sow into their ministry, what God has called them to do. And this is good ground. I think you guys are great ground. Tell me why you're good ground. People ask me that every once in a while. Why are you good ground?
Well, I think that the nations and generations are depending on us.
Right.
And there's nothing necessarily special about us other than our yes.
Right.
You know, we've just said, Lord, just use us. And we've said yes to sell everything we own and to commit our lives to this call.
Yeah, when you guys moved to Vienna, you didn't take a whole lot, did you?
No, we sold everything, and that's what I was going to say.
What did that feel like?
It's scary but freeing at the same time, because you look back and you don't have all the stuff that you're worried about and trying to manage. And so now, when God calls us, it's easier for us to pivot and move. In this situation we're in now, if we would have been weighted down with a lot of worldly things, if you want to label it that way, maybe we could not have said yes.
Right.
But our whole life has been one step of obedience after the other, God opening doors, stepping into things that are way over our head. But because we said yes, God has enlarged our capacity to be able to be effective in every role.
That's great. So in this goal, let's go back to the goal of missionaries. Right now there's 400 and how many?
90.
490 missionaries through the Assemblies of God, which is the largest spirit-filled missionary organization in the world.
Yes.
I guess it still is, correct?
Yes.
So they're the largest presence there. And you're wanting to bring it to 600?
600.
600.
Yes.
So what will 110 more missionaries do?
That's a great question. Within those missionaries, some of them will be 1 to 2 year associates, and those will be absolutely critical to church plants who can go in and immediately be boots on the ground to facilitate ministry. The others will be career missionaries who will have some ministry experience, who will actually go into unreached people groups and to really places that have no access. Because, again, Europe, it's hard for us to understand. It's not a condition of lostness, or it's not that they've just backslidden. They have no access, John.
Right.
And so for a career missionary who says, I'm going to go into one of the most difficult places and I'm going to plant a church that has no access and just be a lighthouse, and it's a long process. So they have to invest time, develop relationships, and then once they get the ear of the community, then they can present the gospel in a way that's relative to them. And so that represents church plants, it represents church launch teams,
Right.
all of that, and within those 110.
Well, I love what missionaries do, but this question is, how do you make the sausage, kind of? We eat the sausage, we don't see how it's made. How does a person become a missionary?
Yeah, well, we have what we call a pipeline. You can go to identify some opportunities. It's worldofmissions.org, and then you can also go to Europe Missions.org, and you can see how you can get into the pipeline. We can come alongside you and help you identify the call, and then get you into training that will allow you to be ready for the position that God's called you to.
Some people, they have that call from the time they're young.
Right.
It's like, go to the mission
Right.
field. And then other people, it's kind of a process, and they know they feel called, but they don't really know where.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people know specifically, and others just know, I feel called to the nations, but I don't know where.
Right.
And so then it's,
Yeah.
like he said, working with them to just help pray through that, or identify what their giftings are and what
And
their passion is.
there are some times where we suggest, hey, it's a maybe. It's not a no. It's just not right now.
Right.
So go back to your pastor. Go back to your church. Get some more ministry experience, and then come back and let's revisit this.
Well, here's a question I've never asked you guys. When did you know you would be missionaries? Did you have a feeling when you were young, or did it just happen more in adulthood?
Yeah.
What about that?
Well, it was more in adulthood. I mean, we were empty nesters already, pretty much. Will was on his way off to university, and we'd been in ministry together all our lives. I'm a fourth generation.
Yeah, your
Assemblies of
parents
God.
were on Hope for Today. Here's their picture. Love this couple.
Yeah, so I'm a fourth generation PK, Assemblies of God, and so my kids are fifth generation. So we've been in ministry our whole married life.
Yeah.
But
you never thought you were going to be a missionary.
Never had that burning bush
And now your
experience.
parents are too.
And now my
Yeah.
parents are too, and our daughter is as well.
Right.
So it came later in life for us, and the story's different for everyone. Some people, it is that, like we said, in youth camp, when you're 7 years old, And for other people, it was just a process for us.
Yeah, my parents actually, before my mom passed away, joined home missions, and they were RVers, and they were going to go and travel and help build churches and help ministries that way. So there's a seed of that in
Right.
both of us. I know her grandmother had a desire for missions at one point when she was a younger girl. I know I've talked to my sister. She had a seed of that when she was a little girl, feeling like God had called her into missions, but think life just got a little too busy. But it's been in us, maybe just kind of under the
Lying
radar.
dormant. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a Isaiah 6:8 moment for you guys. You were available and said yes to the Lord.
Absolutely.
Sent you to Vienna, and now He's sending you to the nations. I think Vienna was a good launching pad because you worked with 100 nationalities.
Yes.
Right.
And now you're overseeing, I don't know, how many nationalities is it in Europe right now?
That's a great question. I don't know. if
Probably
I-
all of them, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
It's a melting pot now, like
sure.
never before.
Absolutely.
So the Lord has put you in this neat position. So how do women get involved in the ministry you're leading?
Yeah. Well, one of the things for U.S. women, one of the things that we do, we always take a mission team with us into every one of these locations
Right.
when we go into Europe or other places around the world. And so you can just go to our website at inspireglobalsisterhood.com. And there's a tab there that you can click on, and you can fill out if you want to bring a mission team or if you want to just join a mission team. There's a form to fill out. and you get more information. You'll see all of the locations listed there and the dates, and you can come to a location, just come and just see what it's about. We'd love for people to do that
That's
as well.
great. Well, I know I love different cities in the world, so let me just ask you this one. What's your favorite city in the world?
The ones that I've been to, I mean, I think Vienna still has to be
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
you've lived there.
I've
Yeah.
lived there. As far as Inspire goes, one of my favorite locations that we've gone to is probably Wales, actually.
really?
We were in
Never
this
been
little
there.
tiny village in Wales, and it was just lovely.
Huh.
So, yeah.
How about you, Mark?
Well, Paul and I have had this, not argument, but discussion, because I love Prague.
I love Prague. That's my
And-
city.
Yeah, and it's just unique because Vienna is so beautiful.
Right.
And and there's a reason why it's ranked the number one city in the world
Right.
for several reasons. But for Prague, the way I try to explain it, it's more romantic.
Right.
And Vienna is just classy.
Yeah.
And I don't,
All the turrets and castles and flags
Yeah.
in Prague get my
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah,
Yeah, yes,
it's
a neat
more
city.
of its original feel.
They're somewhat alike.
Yeah.
They are.
But quite different.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
that's neat. Well, I'm so happy you guys are going to the nations, and the Lord has equipped you and gifted you to do this.
Yeah.
And I want you to pray for them. And again, if the Lord leads you to support this ministry, they're good soil. They told you why they're good soil. They believe in what God has called them to do. I believe in them. And let's just champion people like this, and especially pray for them too.
Yes,
that
please.
God would give them access to the nations, and that the Lord would use them to turn this dark spot in the world, Europe,
Yes.
around.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's possible. Yeah.
And I would say if God is, if you feel like there's that seed, like Mark was talking about, of missions in your heart, don't be afraid to say yes.
These
And
are the people to connect with
Yes.
right here.
And then parents, don't be afraid to
Release your
release
children.
your children.
Your sons and
Well,
daughters.
we don't live in the safest country in the world anymore.
No.
Yeah.
So in the
Yeah.
in the U.S.
It's
So
true.
there's a lot of safer countries to send your kids to
That's true.
That's right.
that need Jesus.
That's
So,
right.
well, thank you for your time today. Thank you
you.
for what you're doing, and I'm excited about Lithuania.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm excited to come see you guys. If
Please
there's
do.
anybody watching from Lithuania, let us know.
Yeah.
We're praying for your nation, and again, thank you guys for what you do.
It's our honor.
And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening on Charisma Podcast. I'm always glad to be a part of what God is doing in your life. I believe in you.
Yes.
Jesus believes in you. With Him, we win.
Amen.